let's talk about habits. We're creatures of habit. There's no way around it. Most of what we do, we do automatically. Even when we know some of our habits are holding us back from becoming the person we want to be. We keep doing them, you know. Why? Because habits are comfortable. They're familiar, you know. But here's the truth. Habits can be changed. All it takes is a willingness to do the work and enough self-awareness to recognize what's working and what isn't. You know, can you identify a habit you're currently repeating that no longer serves the person that you want to become? Hi friends, I'm Scott and I welcome you to be one with me as we journey together to be the best we can. Yeah, them darn habits, you know. They tend to fall into three general categories, you know. First, there's the natural habits like putting on your shoes or, you know, same way every day. These don't really help us, you know, or hurt us unless they start interfering with, you know, growth of how we function. You know, second, there are unconscious habits. These slip under the radar until a situation, you know, forces us to act differently, like being on autopilot until something shakes us out of it. And last is the most important ones to focus on, you know, the self-defeating habits. These are the ones we know are a problem, but we keep doing them anyway. You know, they're the pattern that keeps us stuck. You know, can you recognize unconscious habits in, you know, your day-to-day life? You know, how are they shaping your path and you know, without realizing, you know, or without realizing it? Ask yourself, are there any self-defeating habits that you're aware of but haven't confronted, you know? And what's stopping you? To change a habit, we have to start by understanding it. And, you know, what purpose is it serving? What feeling or fear is it covering up? You know? Once we pinpoint the habits that are keeping us from living the life we want, we can start choosing new ones that move us in the direction of who we want to become. What emotion, belief, or fear might, you know, a current habit be hiding or soothing? You know, how honest are we with ourselves about the cost of staying in the same? You know, that said, let's be real. Trying to change everything at once is overwhelming. That's why most people give up and go back to their old habits. And instead, you know, you need to start small. Choose one habit that you want to change. Focus on it. Be mindful when it shows up. You know, create a new pattern to replace it. And make that habit simple so you can stay to it. You know, those tiny steps repeated with intention build real momentum. And look for tiny realistic shifts you can make today that would begin to take over the limiting habits. What habits would you feel that are small that you could change if you just practiced it for a week? The kicker is it doesn't happen just because we know something isn't working. Change happens when we act differently. If we want stronger relationships, we have to create habits or better communication habits. And if we want a healthier body, we need to create habits around food, movement, rest, and hydration. If we want to be more spiritually grounded, we need to create space for reflection and meditation and prayer and make that a habit. What kind of person are you becoming through your current habits, and is that aligned with who you want to become? That's the question. In what areas of your life, physical, emotional, spiritual, could a new habit create a major breakthrough? And sometimes change means complete replacement. If you're quitting something like smoking or drinking, you can't just you can't just stop. You've got to fill that gap. Cold turkey is cool, but that's where tools like a 12-step program come in. They work on the one day at a time basis, because that's how real transformation happens, one constant step at a time, or I should say one consistent step at a time. Science backs it up. Most habits start to lock in after about 2 weeks of repetition. That doesn't mean they're permanent, but it means your brain and your body are adapting. Keep showing up. When the new habit is connected to something that truly matters to you, it becomes less of a chore and more of a lifestyle shift. And your goals, rooted in deep personal meaning, or are you chasing habits you think you should have? What would it look like to create habits based on love and inspiration rather than shame or pressure? Take a simple example. Your goal is to lose weight. Instead of slashing your diet or doing something extreme, start with a small habit like drinking more water. 1 glass when you wake up, 1 before each meal. Stick with that until it becomes automatic. That one small shift leads to another, and before long you're building momentum, going for a walk, kind of stuff like that, and you're choosing habits that support your goal without burning out. And good habits aren't just about health or discipline. They affect how we show up in relationships, and how we handle stress, how we engage with our own goals. something as simple as setting aside time, to talk with a loved one, can reshape entire relationships. That's a habit that's transformational, you know. Be careful, don't fall into the trap of overachievement. If we go too hard, too fast, like training for a marathon without prep, we'll burn out. And start small, let the habit become part of who you are, and then build another one layer by layer, step by step. That's how lasting change works. What's one area of your life where you've tried to change too much, too fast? What could you do more gently next time? And here's one more thing we can't ignore. Some habits aren't really habits, they're defense mechanisms. Check out my video on defenses. Procrastination, avoidance, blaming others. These are coping strategies dressed up as personality traits. But when we name them, when we stop pretending we don't know they're there, we take our power back, and we stop letting our fear or past conditioning run the show, and we start choosing the person we want to be. Are any of your so-called habits actually defenses in disguise? What are they protecting you from? Imagine what would it feel like to confront those patterns directly instead of dancing around them? How long are we going to dance around those self-defeating habits? Habits are powerful, but you're more powerful. You don't have to let your past patterns define your future identity. Let your intentions lead. Let your actions follow. And build the habits that match the life you actually want. So the real question becomes, what kind of life do you want, and what habits are you willing to build to get there? Subscribe to this channel, like and share this video, and let me know in the comments about the different habits you have that need changing, or ones you have to overcome, and how. And visit me at beonewithme.com. More's coming from the heart for the soul. And check out one of these videos. Remember, a smile can make someone's day, and the right words may change their life. I love you. Be you. Be one with me.